trust your instincts. You are actually probably, you know yourself, you know your limits, you know where your drive and energy are. And so even if you're taking on something that's something you've never done before or bigger than you've ever done before, you'll know whether you think you can actually step up and conquer that thing. Trust your instincts.
What does it take to be a leader in the legal profession? Today, I have the honor of speaking with a trailblazer and an exceptional lawyer leader, Michelle Behnke. Michelle made history as the first person of color to serve as president of the State Bar of Wisconsin. Now she's set to have an even wider impact on the national stage as president-elect of the American Bar Association, only the second Wisconsin attorney to hold this prestigious position. With a distinguished career in business law and a deep commitment to strengthening both the profession and the justice system, Michelle has accomplished so very much since graduating from the UW Law School in 1988. A few highlights include being the principal of the firm Michelle Behnke & Associates, elected into the American Law Institute, the American Bar Foundation Fellows, and the Wisconsin Law Foundation Fellows. And Michelle has been recognized for her work in the legal profession and her community, receiving the Wisconsin Law Foundation's Charles L. Goldberg Distinguished Service Award and the YWCA Women of Distinction Award. In this conversation, we'll talk about her journey, her vision for the future, and her advice for young lawyers navigating today's legal landscape. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
So I wanted to kind of start just by, I guess, kind of starting at the beginning. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey? What first kind of inspired you to take that first step into leadership within the legal profession?
Well, the firm that I originally practiced with was a big supporter of bar work, and someone there at the firm invited me to my very first bar leadership meeting. And there I met people who were at the same stage of their careers. And as we talked, I was amazed by the fact that they faced some of the same challenges I did each day, but yet they were there contributing and working both to solve issues for our profession and for their communities. So I was hooked.
That's awesome. So you served in a lot of different roles, both in the State Bar of Wisconsin and also at the ABA. How has some of that involvement sort of shaped your perspective on the profession?
When I first started, I think I viewed bar work as something wholly separate from legal work. What I really learned fairly quickly is many of the skills that you need to practice law, you actually have a chance to practice as you serve on bar committees and do bar work. Things like collaboration, things like negotiation, bringing people together to reach a common goal. And so I realized pretty quickly that my bar work would actually further my legal career. So that was pretty important.
So then let's focus then on the State Bar then. So looking back then on your tenure as State Bar president, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced and how did you navigate them?
So one of them, when I first started practicing, there weren't a lot of people that looked like me. Now, Wisconsin is a mandatory bar, so I knew that there were other women and other lawyers of color, but they weren't as fully engaged in bar work. And so I felt like we were missing an opportunity. We weren't drawing on the breadth of the lawyers that were in Wisconsin. So that was a challenge. And then the second challenge, when I actually got to the point of leadership, was it happened to hit at an important time. The interest rates were pretty low. And so the interest on lawyers' trust accounts was not producing the amount that we typically would see from WISTAF. And so there was a petition asking lawyers, I shouldn't say asking, that wanted to apply a mandatory assessment against lawyers to help fund civil legal services. And as I went around the state, I heard from many lawyers, the struggles that they were having. In some instances, clients who were interested in bartering for their legal services, which would certainly result in lower cash for the lawyer providing those services. And so I go back to those negotiation skills, trying to bring people together, trying to make sure that what I was hearing was a good representation of the lawyers in the state, and then presenting that to the Supreme Court.
So taking that experience then and looking ahead, as you kind of step into this prominent national leadership role, what do you see as the most pressing issues facing the legal profession today?
So I think there are several. One of them is really just the pace of change. I think back to when I first started practicing, and I know this will make me sound ancient, but the firm that I was with, they were one of the early firms that got a fax machine. And we all thought that was just going to revolutionize law practice. But that was in 1988. The pace of change, everybody got a desktop computer, then everybody got cell phones, and then everybody you can do incredible things on your cell phone as, more than just taking a phone call. AI. So the pace of change is really exponentially faster, and keeping up with those changes, I think, is a big challenge. When you think of law as a profession, most of what we do is based on precedents. So we look backwards to determine how to go forward. I don't know about you, but if you're walking backwards, that can be kind of dangerous. But that's kind of what our profession does. We look backwards to figure out how we should go forward. And so I think that's a big challenge. I think the other really big challenge is kind of the current political climate. We have people who are very divided, and it's really hard to bring people together to have conversations, even on issues that are not political. So those are the things that I kind of see ahead that are challenging for the profession.
So are there certain then initiatives or goals that you kind of hope to prioritize as ABA president?
So it has often been the case in lots of bar associations that during your year of service, you would have a presidential initiative. One of the things that we've learned is it's hard to keep all those separate and distinct presidential initiatives going forward. Everybody's got fewer resources. So I don't have a plan to start a new initiative. Just before I was elected, we at the ABA did a strategic planning process. And so I kind of love strategic planning. I'm an odd duck in that respect. And so it really is my hope and goal to spend time helping our association focus on those things that we do well to serve members, and where necessary to reorganize ourselves or redirect energy so that we aren't stretched as thin as we sometimes are.
So kind of, I like that walking backwards, right? Or looking backwards to walk forwards, and maybe not walking backwards, but so kind of in that same vein, I was going to ask you, you're going to be speaking at the Young Lawyers Conference here in Wisconsin in Brookfield. And so I wanted to ask you, what advice do you have for young attorneys who are interested in bar leadership or leadership roles more broadly within the profession?
So my biggest piece of advice is pick something you love. When I was a newer associate, some of the partners were encouraging us to get involved with activities in our community or within the bar association. And one of the best pieces of advice I got was to pick something I loved. If you're doing something that you love, maybe it's a running club, maybe it's the symphony, maybe it's a youth program, that passion that you have will come out and people will see you very authentically, and they'll see you, I say, at your best. If I don't dislike the symphony, but I don't have the same passion for the symphony that I do for bar work. If you're doing it because you think it's the best thing to do, or it will put you in contact with people that you think will further your career, that'll come through. People will see you. You won't be your authentic self. You probably won't show as much passion for the work. It'll seem like work to you. And we all have busy days. So I'd say that's probably the biggest thing. Pick something you really love and then go at it authentically. And you'd be surprised. You could be involved in something that's wholly unrelated to the law, but people will, when they see you do that work and they see you really excelling at it, they will assume that that's exactly how you practice law. And so it will translate to people wanting to refer people to you or trusting your judgment on some issue that they need assistance with.
That's a great takeaway for any young lawyer. So along kind of those similar lines, how can young lawyers, particularly those from maybe more underrepresented backgrounds, how can they kind of position themselves for success in the legal field?
So I think, again, it comes to finding something you love and finding people that you trust. I found mentors and sponsors in places I might not have automatically assumed I would find them. And so be open to the opportunities that might present themselves. There were some men much older than I was at the time that actually I connected with, and they became people that I could ask questions to, or people who would suggest things that I either become involved with or that I attend. And that really helped further my career.
So you've built I would call a very successful career in business law and in real estate, in estate planning. What drew you to that area of practice? What do you like most about it?
Well, selfishly, I say it's happy law. Generally, what I'm doing is something I'm assisting somebody at a point in their life that they're really trying to achieve a goal. They're putting together a team. They want to start a business or they want to do some sort of real estate development, and they understand the value of bringing together legal and financial and accounting to get that accomplished. So somebody wakes up and they say, I want to work with a lawyer. That starts everything on a great note when somebody actually wants to work with a lawyer. Some of the other practice areas, people certainly understand the value of a lawyer, but they didn't want to be there in the first instance. And they're really unhappy that they're in that situation in the first instance, divorce or something of that nature. So I was drawn to being part of a team on the happy law side. I loved math in school, and so business things always interested me as well. And so being part of a team, working with numbers, being in happy law seemed like a great fit.
It does. It definitely suits you from our conversation so far.
Yeah.
So I know, or at least I think I've seen that you recently joined Boardman and Clark. Is that right?
Yes.
So you had your own firm,
Yes.
and now you've made this change. So what kind of excites you most about this next phase in your career?
Well, I was very excited to take this next leadership journey within the ABA. I love my clients. I love my client work. But the ABA travel schedule and requirements for the president are pretty substantial. When I talked to my clients, they were all very happy for me. They were all very supportive, but they all still wanted to get their legal work done. And so I knew I had to find some way to make sure that my clients could still get their legal work done, and that I would be able to actually do this bar leadership thing that I stepped out on the ledge to do. And so joining Boardman was a great opportunity for me. I've worked with or on the other side of many of the Boardman lawyers. They're very skilled attorneys. They view their client service very similar to the way I viewed client service. So that part seemed like a great match. And then to be able to feel comfortable that my clients were going to be well taken care of, that would give me the freedom to actually step out and do this ABA leadership and try to represent and support our profession going forward.
And this is kind of related to that, but so thinking about that experience and especially like you were saying, the commitments that are involved with being ABA president, how do you balance bar leadership, the legal practice, just personal commitments?
Sure. I've been very fortunate. I met my husband in law school. We were both first year students together and graduated together and started our family and our practices together. It takes teamwork. And so we've both been able to launch out into things that are important and things that we have a passion for. But we both understand it takes some balance. It takes some chess skills to keep everything in order. But it really, a lot of times I talk to young lawyers and I often get a question: can you have it all? And I used to say yes, and I would try to, I do say I still say yes, just not all at the same time. So I had to learn things like, was it more important to me to have a completely dusted house, or was it more important that my kids were fed? Right? So you can have it all. It's just not necessarily at the same moment. As I mentioned, my husband and I met in law school, and there have been some times that I've been involved, very involved, like when I was state bar president, and he picked up more of the slack. There have been times that he's been the chair of a board of trustees for a college, and so I picked up more of the slack. So it's really, figuring out what's really important to you at any given moment.
So what's one piece of advice that you wish you had received when you were a young lawyer just starting out that you could maybe impart on the rest of us?
Trust your instincts. When I came out as a new lawyer, I mean, you know that you're new. You know that you haven't done this for ages and ages. You know other people have. It's really easy to doubt yourself and to assume that you don't know things. Trust your instincts. You are actually probably, you know yourself, you know your limits, you know where your drive and energy are. And so even if you're taking on something that's something you've never done before or bigger than you've ever done before, you'll know whether you think you can actually step up and conquer that thing. Trust your instincts.
Love that. What legacy do you hope to leave? What impact do you hope to have on young lawyers?
I don't think of it as legacy so much, but I often go to a quote that Maya Angelou uses, which is, "People won't remember what you said, and people won't remember what you did, but they will remember how you made them feel." And so that's, I think, what I think about. I wonder if when I'm doing things, whether I'm being helpful to a young lawyer, whether I'm being collegial to another lawyer on the other side, if I'm doing something that helps our profession in the long term, I want to look back and say I made people feel like I cared and that the profession was important and that I wanted to lift up young lawyers.
So my final question then is, what's the next achievement for a lawyer after ABA president?
A good long nap.
You'll deserve it.
Yeah. I have seen prior presidents, when you give this much time and energy, there's a care and love for the organization and the work that it does. I've not seen any of them go put their feet up on their desks. They really still chip in, and when asked to do some special thing or some hard thing, They're there to support the current leaders. I've been the beneficiary of that already, and I certainly would want to make sure that I'm there for the leaders in the future.
I guess this will be my final question. Is there is there anything that I didn't ask you, or a final thought then that you would share with us?
I think the one thing I would say is thank you. Thank you to that more senior associate that took me to my first bar meeting. It really has changed the trajectory of my life. And thanks to my original law firm for supporting bar association work and seeing that as valuable.
Well, we're fortunate for them to have done that too. Thank you so much, Michelle Behnke, for joining me to chat about this, and good luck on the road ahead.
Thank you so very much. This was fun.